Next item on the Criminal Justice Committee meeting agenda is Assured Supervision Accountability Program, ASAP. Our presenter will be Jill Dennis and Matt Dennis. How not to only fix the past issues that the City of New Orleans faced with GPS, but also make ASAP, the release program, the GPS program, who is both accountable and responsible, not only to the courts, but to the City of New Orleans and the citizens of the city. The Dennis's, it's your platform now.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for giving us this time. We know that the city is very busy and you guys are very busy. Interestingly, tomorrow marks exactly 6 months to the day since the last time we gave this presentation to the Criminal Justice Committee, and we were able to see some success from it. What we're hoping today is maybe we can finish that off. So real quick, I'm just going to read a brief statement, and then Jill's going to walk you through what we think is an answer for the city that could help you. ASAP operates at a local, state, and nationwide level. State and federal laws regulate our arrest powers. We are a program that exists in the city with or without a public-private partnership. It is our hope that we can work together to unlock the total accountability and resources our program provides. In the old days, our jail held 7,000 people. Now it holds 1,200. Currently, there are about 200 people enrolled in what we're calling the Orleans Parish Digital Jail through our Assured Supervision program. This jail has an unlimited capacity. It costs the taxpayers $0 and has stopped in its tracks repeat offenders. It has full arrest powers nationwide. It demands personal responsibility. It is the foundation of our program. And it has been safely protecting New Orleans since 2015. The ASAP release program also ensures that no person is stuck in jail simply because they cannot afford their bond through what we call our smart bail process. Our partnership with NOPD has provided proximity reports real time, which has given the local PD a tool they can rely on to keep track of every person enrolled. This is a type of teamwork and communication that is needed. Every NOPD district has commanders with the ability to run these proximity reports. ASAP is a supervision program. It's a truly accountable solution. The bail agent is 100% responsible for those released to their custody. The failure of the court to utilize this authority in the past was just one reason why the taxpayer-funded version of GPS has not worked. The arrest powers of the bail agent are key to creating an accountable solution. Lower bonds are possible and intelligent when coupled with accountability. This process does save money, but not at the expense of public safety. Every single judge in a criminal court has had an opportunity to test our program. All have realized the value and necessity of the bail bond arrest powers and have utilized these powers in times of non-compliance with court's orders. Those enrolled in this program are now offline, no longer repeating their mistakes. Those who refuse to accept personal responsibility are easily identified and returned to the brick jail. This extra jail capacity is the solution. It's the middle ground between incarceration and free to roam. We can expand our capacity instantly and with full accountability. And we are a nationwide provider of supervision solutions. An important part of our job is to create solutions to problems. The typical problem as it relates to GPS is no accountability. However, the solution is standards. ASAP release operates under 3 basic rules that fix responsibility with those tasked with supervising persons released pre and post trial. Even though the court itself has not issued a set of standards, ASAP release operates under reporting and performance standards that should be incorporated as the court standards at a minimum and enforced for all who wish to provide release supervision to the criminal justice system. With that, Jill is going to go into your the standards that we have provided you guys a copy with. I think you have a presentation that looks like this, some slides. Yeah, that was the white paper. There's another thing that they should have that should be able to, that looks kind of like this. Your mic is off.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now because
I think whoever we emailed it to has this.
Okay, all right. They're listening, so bring me the copy of that, please. Are you guys going to do it on the screen or just?
Yeah, we gave you a PowerPoint presentation for your screen just in case. If not, she can just go with it as long as you have a copy maybe in front of you.
Yeah, they're going to bring me a copy.
Okay. And Jill is our director. She runs the program and its daily operation, and she is the best person to speak to. Now she'll take it from here.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas, for inviting us to join you here at this meeting. ASAP releases mission statement is ensuring no person is stuck in jail simply because they can't afford their bond by providing accountable solutions that protect public safety while promoting personal responsibility. Again, about 6 months ago, we had a meeting with this committee, and we were able to get a whole lot accomplished through that meeting. One of the things that we were able to do is fix some communications issues with NOPD and all of its districts. Since then, I have met with each district for NOPD, and proximity reports are being processed in every district at any location of a crime that is being committed. That allows them to check every single person that is enrolled in our program to make sure they were not at the scene of a crime that had taken place within our city. We've also set up communication standards that we have with each of the divisions of court. We send a set of reports to the court when someone is enrolled. If there's any violations, yes, sir. If there's any violations, every time they go to court, and any special reports that the judge may ask for. We also have communication standards set up with OPSO to ensure that no one is released from the jail without a monitor when they were ordered to be on one. We have discussed that not only with the court, but also with the sheriff in order to make sure that those things do not happen in the future. Also, we've set up standards with the OPD and the OPDA. With the OPD, we were able to assist them to show them where we can assist their clients to reduce incarceration days while being cost efficient to their client, and also, again, protecting public safety and personal responsibility. With the DA's office, we were able to make communication reports with them, allowing us to send them monthly reports. So the DA's office does know every single person that is enrolled in our program, what division of court they're in, and what their restrictions are as far as the conditions of their release. We also have had a couple of meetings with the clerks in the juvenile detention center. We do have a few of the juveniles that are based on not only court orders, but bond conditions, and showing them how we work as far as being able to not only ensure that the people released into the program are following the conditions of the court, but also that if they do not follow the conditions of the court, can be picked up and brought in front of the court immediately upon the judge notifying us that that's what they would like to have happen. The three standards that we discussed and that we stand by, and that we believe any persons that are, yep, right page, thank you. Any GPS provider for the city of New Orleans should have to follow these three standards. First of all, they should be a local company. In order to respond to violations and serve the court properly, they need to be available at a moment's notice. With the ability to go face to face with the offenders, to be proactive in the release of offenders, both pre-trial and post-conviction. When an offender is released into our program, they not only get the supervision through an ankle monitor, but they also have a caseworker, and that caseworker deals with the offenders every single day. The second standard that we stand by and that we do every single day is the reporting process. This is one of the things that can 100% assist the court, NOPD, the DA's office, and the community when it comes to being able to just check in to see what's going on. Enrollment reports. These enrollment reports allows the docket to show who is supervising this individual, how any person that's involved in criminal justice can get in touch with that supervising entity, what the conditions are, and what the current contact information, address, telephone number, things like that, that we have for that offender. And that way the court, the DA's office, and the releasing entity, whether it's the bail bond or the family, whoever has paid that bond, has all the same information, so they know exactly what's going on with that offender at all times. Violation reports. If an offender violates a condition that is set by the court needs to be privy to that information. So we need to make sure that every time a violation happens, the report is sent directly to the court so that the court can have that information. Court date reports. So a court date report will consist of, on that court date, every violation that has taken place since the last court date till that day. And this puts all of those reports together in one report. We do a monthly summary report. The monthly summary report is a report that is sent out every month to the DA's office and to every division of court. Those summary report has every single person that is being monitored, as well as what their conditions are and what their next court date is. We also have a special report. So I've had one of the questions that was asked, who watches the watchers? That was at the last Criminal Justice Committee meeting. And our answer to that question is the judges. At any time they can call and say, I need every whereabout of such and such from this date to this date. Not only that, with NOPD having proximity reporting, they're also watching what's going on in the city. And if someone on their proximity report is in our program and shows up when they run that report, they have access to be able to see how that person was involved and the whereabouts. We're actually one of the only providers in the court that the courts have that much access to those that are being released through a supervision. The proximity reports, if you're not familiar with what a proximity report is, every district commander in NOPD and every district of NOPD has access to our program. There's actually have two logins, one for the whole district and one that is centralized to the commanding officer in that district. So every officer in an OPD can go into the system, type in an address, and see if anybody within our program shows up at that location of that crime. If someone does show up at the location of that crime, they contact us and say, we need to be able to look at such and such just to see what their involvement was. And at that point, they have access to be able to see that. We have not only proven that someone was at the scene, but we've also been able to prove someone that wasn't at the scene. Someone that they may have thought was involved, we have been able to show that that person was not at that location. The third standard that we think is very important is that a supervision program must have arrest powers. In order to be a fully accountable and responsible program, we need to be able to supervise these individuals all the way from installing an ankle monitor to monitoring the compliance with the court order. And when there isn't compliance, to be able to arrest that individual and either bring them to the brick jail or bring them to the court and let the judge reiterate the conditions that they have set. You can go to the next slide. With that first standard and a company being a local company, a company that provides simply a device and monitors that device from other states cannot be made accountable when things go wrong. We have to make sure that when an offender is placed into our program, when there is a violation, then there's a consequence to that violation. And whether that consequence is to be being told to return home immediately, or to go in front of the judge so the judge can make a warning, or for the judge to simply remand that individual for whatever amount of time. But there needs to be a consequence to the violation. Not only that, we have a domestic issue in the city of New Orleans. And with that domestic issue, there's victims to some of these crimes, and we need to make sure that these victims are being protected. And through the use of our FOB program, our domestic abuse program, where the victim has a FOB, if you're not a local company, you can't help to ensure that these victims are safe. You can go to the next slide. The standard reporting process, these daily routine reports, such as the court reports, the violation reports, and the enrollment, those are things that we send out every day. We do also send them to the clerk's office. They need, so that they can be clocked in and become part of the record for the offenders. This allows everyone in the criminal justice system to be able to get into that system and see, okay, this person is on a GPS monitor. This is the company monitoring them, and this is how to get in touch with that company. They also need to know if there's any violations. The DA's office needs to know if an offender is not following the court's order. The public defender's office needs to know that this offender has been being monitored for a year now, and he's followed all of the rules being monitored. So maybe we can stair step this offender out of the program and help with the reentry process into pre-trial and post-conviction. You can go to the next slide. We want to make sure that anybody that's providing GPS doesn't have deniability written into their program. We want to make sure that they can follow through on the orders of the court and enforce those conditions. When I say we must have arrest powers, yes, there have been instances where we have had to pick someone up and bring them to the jail. However, it's not only that. We've had more instances where someone is having an issue with charging their device. We're able to pick that person up, get them back to our office, get them plugged in, get them to explain to them how important it is for them to be able to make sure that they charge their device and get them back home to their family. In order to successfully monitor and enforce the conditions that are set by a judge, we have to be able to have that power, and so that they know you can't just violate the conditions of the court and not have any type of reprimand or issue. Yeah, you have to be accountable for those things. You can go to the next slide. Sorry, I thought that was coming from you. What we've noticed in the past with GPS is most of these GPS providers give you an ankle monitor. At ASAP, we give you a supervision program. New Orleans doesn't need a monitoring company. They need a supervision program. They need somebody that is there supervising and assisting all of the offenders 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We also need to make sure that we have to be accountable. You can't monitor people pre-trial and post-conviction if your company is not accountable for that release. There's no finger pointing. When something goes wrong, and we are accountable and responsible for the people in the program. The rules that are set by the court are what's written in stone. We don't give permission outside of the court. We report directly to the court. The court tells us directly exactly how they want an offender monitored, and that's what we do. All of the normal GPS providers provide you a service with no responsibility. However, we're fully responsible. Through the use of the ASAP program, you are given full responsible program that not only monitors the offender in the program, but corrects all the violations to the full extent of full arrest powers if that's needed. You can go to the next slide. ASAP provides accountable solutions at the lowest price possible. We still protect public safety, promote personal responsibility. In fact, the cost of ASAP is less than a pack of cigarettes a day for the highest level of supervision. We also support the supervision of individuals with least restrictive and most accountable means available. That's our stair-step program. We want to make sure that people are being released to the least restrictive while still making them accountable and available to be able to go in front of the judge and do exactly what they need. And we answer directly to the court. The court tells us exactly how they want their people being released to be monitored and what rules they want them to follow. We have an array of solutions offered to the court. And when I say stair step, of course, we have the ankle monitor and wristwatch monitoring. That can range from 24-hour home incarceration to free to roam as long as you stay in the state. Curfews are available. From there, we also have smartphone monitoring and alcohol monitoring. The victim notification services is a really cool service that we have that includes a victim fob. It allows the victim to carry a fob, which makes the stay away area a roving stay away area. This allows victims to be protected no matter where he or she is, at work, home, wherever he goes. They have the fob, and that stay away area is around that fob. And also nationwide arrest powers. We've had situations where people were released from the jail, weren't supposed to be released, and they're in a different parish. Within 30 minutes, we had that person back in Orleans Parish and back in the jail. Those are some things that we are able to do with our nationwide arrest powers. We can go to any parish, any state, and bring people back to New Orleans if that's what the judge or the DA's office would like us to do. You can change the slide. Again, the large array of supervision, everything you see there, the most expensive service is the GPS monitoring, less than a pack of cigarettes a day. And this is all an offender pay program. We're not here at all to try to get funding or any of this. It goes with our accountability and personal responsibility. As you can see there, one thing I didn't talk about was the job placement, educational services, and housing. We have teamed up with different services to get job placement. We do have schools that accept our offenders into their school to be able to get licensing. We've had HISET and OSHA certificates through our program. We have been able to find housing for individuals that were on home incarceration and was not able to be released because they didn't have a place to go. And we were able to work with not only the First 72, but some other housing facilities that allowed them to be able to stay there so that they can be out of the jail and working and doing what they need. The area needs more housing for these individuals, I do believe, and I think that was brought up earlier in your meeting. But job placement, we have temp services that allow our offenders to actually gain employment, and many of them have been employed in those positions for the duration, and they still employed today, even though they're no longer in the program. So it's really working to be able to just be accountable and responsible and be available to the people that need the help. You can switch the page. One thing that we believe is all bail must be based on history and charge. We do a lot of negotiating kind of with the courts when it comes to smart bail practices. And my question always for the judge is, are you trying not to release this person, or are you trying to protect public safety? Because we can help you. For every $10,000 the judge reduces a bond, can pay for 6 months on a GPS device. That cost is also spread out over the 6 months. The cost reduction would rid the courts of what we call created indigence. You have a $100,000 bond, an offender has to pay $13,000 to get out. That leaves them with no family money, no money for court costs, and no money to pay their attorneys. However, reducing the bond to $10,000 allows the accused to only pay $1,300 for their bond, with the added security of GPS and also the ability to pay for their own attorney. So that we're just simply want to make sure that no one's stuck in jail simply because they can't afford their bond. However, still protect public safety. When we have zero, and at this point, just so you guys know, we don't have any people in our program that are low risk, non-violent, or first-time offenders. Everybody in our program are either high risk offenders, violent crimes, really long rap sheets, or serving a sentence. You can switch the slide. One of the things that we've been really working on in New Orleans is what we call the 894.2 project. This is post-conviction. There is a lot of people in the jail right now that could be out in our communities with their families, working and providing for their family. The state of Louisiana leads the nation as the state with one of the highest incarceration rates. The Louisiana Revised Statute Article 894.2 provides us the opportunity to assist the criminal justice systems in its effort once and for all to remove our state from that position. Through this project, the 894.2 project, we can reduce our prison population, and it would be as safe as it's ever been. Through ASAP Release Program, we can continue to protect public safety and promote personal responsibility by ensuring that the people released not only find employment and housing, but is also available to be there for their family. In using this model, we work alongside the court to stair-step these defendants back throughout the program and back into society with no restrictions. We do that through our partnering education and job training programs, as well as our housing programs that we work with. We've had many people get through our program and all the way through their sentence successfully. And with 894.2, if you read the article, anyone serving time or get sentenced to time up to 5 years can be spent on a GPS monitor. And they can do that through any conditions that are set by the court. It's really details exactly the way the process works and how we can do that. We can go to the next slide. According to 894.2, the court sets the conditions of the release. So it can be home incarceration, home detention. The difference between home incarceration and home detention is that person is home and work. They are on home incarceration, but they're allowed to go to work. So they have to travel straight to work and travel straight home. A curfew, we have a cell phone monitoring, which turns the cell phone into a GPS device, alcohol monitoring, and home visitation. The court may require the offender to obtain employment in order to pay for their supervision, again, not costing the city anything. Decreasing the number of incarceration days, one offender at a time. And you can go to the next slide. At the last city council meeting, there was a proposal that was given to the committee that included the ability to supervise 30 juvenile offenders for $250,000. For $250,000, we could monitor over 150 with enforcement. However, our mission statement includes the fact that we want to promote personal responsibility. It's an important component when reducing the number of re-entries into our pretrial offenders. And we, as you've seen, we talked about earlier, idle hands. So what we do with the personal responsibility is make sure that offenders are out there working and providing not only for their family, but for their release as well. Through the use of our offender pay program, over 95% of our offenders have been offered new jobs and are working successfully in those positions, with less than 5% of our offenders needing assistance to pay their own monitoring fees. It really does work. We are working with not only Operation Restoration, but also the Public Defender's Office. We work well with them when it comes to making sure that these offenders are working in new jobs, have safe living arrangements, and is able to continue their education. Thank you so much again, Councilman Thomas, for giving us the time to discuss the program.
Make sure. Thank you guys very much, Mr. and Mrs. Dennis. Are there questions from any of my colleagues, council members, or member of the Criminal Justice Panel or Committee? Any comments from any of my colleagues?
I have a couple of questions.
Councilmember Morrell.
Well, first, it was a very thorough presentation, and I really appreciate thorough presentations, and it was very on point. A couple of quick questions. So, obviously, y'all are familiar with the case with the very well-regarded and unfortunate murder that took place in the Bywater French Quarter, and how anchor monitoring played a role or didn't play a role in that case. Can y'all speak on that for a second?
Yeah, that case is Brian Andre. And you know, what's interesting is within 45 minutes of that alleged crime, that person allegedly doing that, I was on the phone with NOPD homicide. Within a few hours, I was on the phone with the gang task force from the DA's office. These are people that called us. Within 24 hours, I was on the phone with the Metropolitan Crime Commission, and many other persons involved in trying to get to the bottom of that issue. One thing I was able to tell them very early on, I made a prediction that they would determine that the gentleman did not have an ankle monitor on, that he was released. We were able to track exactly how it happened. Unfortunately, we had a new judge who was not aware that you need to put the order for the ankle monitor into the bail order. She did put it into her docket, which a lot of judges do, and that's very helpful. It's good public information. But that doesn't tell the sheriff that he needs to send a writ with the defendant when he gets transported to JP. So he gets released from Orleans on bond, which means he should have gone onto his ankle monitor, except he was transported to JP on an outstanding felony warrant, where he then posted bond over there as well. Because no writ had been sent with that defendant to JP, he was released. And that really is where that ends.
And I'll add to that, what we've done since then is, as part of our standards with the reporting process, you heard me speak about an enrollment report. That enrollment report allows us to let the judge know, and it gets part of the docket to know who is monitoring that person and what the conditions are. That gets sent directly to the clerk's office to become part of the record, and to the judge, so the judge knows this person, you ordered him on, he was released, and he's with our program. So if you have any questions, please call us.
And I'll go one step farther. Our process is all automated. It's online. When you go to our website, asaprelease.org, you'll see the monitoring center. And on there, there's a series of portals that can be used depending on what you're doing. One of them is an enrollment portal. So all of our enrolling agents, as they enroll a person, when they hit submit at the end, this is an automatic distribution of documents to whoever we put in. I could put your email in and you'd get a report on every single person ever enrolled the second it takes place. Not 10 minutes later, not 2 days later, you get it the minute it takes place. We've actually had judges call and say, man, this says he's got court on August 12th, 2052. I'll say, yes, Your Honor, you haven't set a court date yet. We have to put a date there. So it won't let us move forward without a date. So we put a crazy date. That way everybody knows it's not real. So that's, people do pay attention to these reports. And this standard reporting process is the transparency. That is the key. Now I'm going to say something. I've said this to Mike Pearlstein from WWL, Rob Masson from Fox 8, Natasha Robin, all of them, Zimmerman from the Advocate. Our door is wide open. You never need an appointment, never any preconditions. You come through the door with a list of questions. We put you in front of a terminal. We let you take it apart. You tell us what you think. That's what we like to do. We're not afraid to have people look inside of this process. So it's very important. The Brian Andrew case, you know, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna go one step farther. We have a situation where we made this arrangement with this last city council. We said that we would begin this reporting process to make sure everybody has it. The judges love it. But yet we still have some lawyers appointed as commissioners in criminal court that are very upset that we would send regular reports on some people that are out of their courtroom. And to us, that doesn't make sense. We don't understand why a person would not want that level of transparency. So when we talk about communication being the key, it's got to be a situation where we can all sit down and realize that we're on the same team. We're trying to actually bring a solution to the table and not have all of this blame. The one thing we can't do, one thing we wrote into this program is if it goes wrong, it's our fault. We can't blame you. I can't blame the judge. In 2015, I've been at this for 29 years. In 2015, it came to me, I was brought to me because I'm an ex-military guy. I was avionics tech in the Navy. I installed GPS in the Navy's P-3 Orion fleet in the early 90s. And so it was brought to me, could you do something with GPS and make it work? And, from that moment on, we have been trying to build the best program that would serve this city and bring to it the accountability that it needs. And the only thing that's missing at this point is the ability to sit down and communicate with everybody. And if we could do that, you're going to solve this problem. Just so you guys understand, 10 years ago, the people that populated GPS programs were domestic violence, probation and parole, and failure to appears. This is a murder charge. This is a murder charge. This is a person out of St. Tammany that was at trial. He ended up getting 50 years. He cut his ankle monitor off in the parking lot. He ran out of the courtroom, cut his ankle monitor off in the parking lot of the courthouse. In jail within 8 hours. So, the power of the program is complete and the accountability is complete. And we do not have the ability, like with the pizza delivery driver killer, we can't point fingers at the judge or at the sheriff. If this gets screwed up by us, it's us.
No, I appreciate that level of accountability. I encourage you, despite whatever you're being told by appointed judges, to not be transparent, to continue to be transparent. I do think anything that is an alternative, especially for people that are on the bubble, anything that's a viable alternative to putting people in jail and keeping them at home and doing their jobs, obviously something that has to be considered. I think that we should continue to have this conversation because obviously, as you said, there is something to be said that if you have someone who is monitored by y'all appropriately and they are accused of being somewhere they're not supposed to be, to able to instantaneously have, yep, they were there, or nope, they weren't there, that is also very useful, especially when, at the end of the day, technology is, with the lower manpower we have in the police department and in law enforcement across the spectrum, technology is really going to make up the gap. I think that this is a good initial conversation. I'm not 100% familiar with, obviously, with ankle monitoring. It's not my bag, but I do look forward to having more conversations with y'all to become more familiar with it and just figure out how we can incorporate it into our variety of tools we have to manage what we're dealing with in New Orleans right now. And I think that's, to your point, I think it's very telling if a person's convicted of murder and gets 50 years and they are on bond and they intend to run, if they don't have an ankle monitor, they're just going to run. But if they have an ankle monitor and they cut it, then you definitely know they're definitely running. So you're right. There's a lot of value there in a lot of different areas. And like I said, I think this is a good beginning of a conversation. I would encourage you, like you said, I think the fact that y'all are completely transparent, that is a huge asset. You should not ever let anyone, in particular appointed judges, tell you not to be transparent and share data, because that data, sharing that data and allowing us to review it, as you've probably seen from other presentations, this is a very data heavy council. We have criminal dashboards and we try to have transparency with the public. And the more transparent you are with us in providing data and allowing us to show the public we're doing everything reasonably with data to make sure it's available for everyone to consider, it helps us out. So thank y'all for your presentation. Look forward to meeting with you in the future.
Thank you.
We ask you guys to try to break it if at all possible. I just want to add something if I can. You would think, it sounds kind of brutal, maybe mean, the arrest powers and all that, but that's not really the strength. I've had a person call me and he said, Mr. Matt, she's stabbing me, Mr. Matt. And I'm on the phone. I have to call NOPD. I got to get NOPD to this guy's location. His girlfriend is literally stabbing him with a knife. We have to go over and protect him. We have to keep NOPD from arresting him. We have to make sure that they understand it wasn't him. So there was a tremendous amount of protection for our guy beyond just making him pay. On top of that, I spend a lot of time counseling people, sitting at the end of their bed, plugging them in, waiting for them to come down off of whatever high they're on, because, it's hard to plug in an ankle monitor and stay, functioning like that. When things, when you don't have everything in order personally. So we spend a lot of time counseling people. And then the last thing I want to say is in 2015, when we saw the end of the sheriff's program, you're talking about a program that had 45 people on average in it, at a total cost to the taxpayer of $1.2 million. We ended up with a Domino's pizza delivery driver getting murdered. We ended up with a woman having her car stolen after being pistol whipped by 2 juveniles that were on ankle monitors and weren't being watched. We've worked with juvenile court. We have some juvenile offenders in our program now. I know that juvenile court is still trying to create a taxpayer funded version. We don't like the idea of taxpayer funding because it puts a limit on what we can do. I could give you the total number of people that you could afford to fund, and it wouldn't put a dent in what we're watching. You put limits on what we can do if it's a purely taxpayer funded program. 45 people for $1.2 million is atrocious. The national average for ankle monitors is between $10 and $15 a day. Our program at $6 a day was designed to make it affordable for the offender. If there was anything the city could do to make it better, to begin right away working with us, would be to work with some of these nonprofits or private entities like Operation Restoration and see if they can help with some of our indigent cases. Mental illness. We have found that a number of times judges are giving us mental illness. And I don't have to tell anybody how difficult that is. That is an exceedingly difficult person to supervise, because these people might do everything completely right for months and months and months, and then just have one episode. Typically, these sheriff-run programs, that's it. You're going to jail. You're done. You screwed up. We're able to interject, bring a report to the judge, explain to the judge what's happening. And sometimes the judge will remand for a period of time so they can pay a price. Sometimes they'll just let them be reestablished in the program. But the point is, mental illness can't just be looked at as a violation. A person who's not taking their meds, it's having a moment. If you get them straight today, they'll be good again for a few months. You can't just get rid of them. So these are some of the benefits that our program is able to do by working one-on-one with the people in it.
And one of the other things you brought up about someone cutting their ankle monitor off, one of the things through the ASAP program that we have done is, if that were to happen, the amount of information that is available, not only to the court, but to NOPD and to its officers and to the person responsible for the release, whether it be the family or the bondsman, the amount of information that we have stored is just not unprecedented.
I know where you get your haircut. I know where you
Right.
buy your cigarettes. I know where your girlfriend lives. I know everything about you if you're in the program. So if you're going to cut and run, it's impossible to run, because this is what we do. We can actually take that data and do what's called stop reports. And it really just literally breaks down where you go the longest, all of that stuff. And we can figure out where to find you. So it's a great tool. It protects in many levels. So I'm hoping that in the future, we can work closer with this city council. This is probably the most promising city council this city's had in a long time. So congratulations to every single one of you guys that won.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, it's serious. Hey, listen, I got to be honest with you, Councilperson Thomas. If we want to start to look at what could have caused some of the problems we have today, we can look at some of the reforms that were passed in previous city councils. Sometimes decisions that are made have repercussions. And what we have right now is we've gutted the lower level of criminal justice. There is no justice in municipal court. The judges over there have no ability to hold anybody accountable simply because of rules that were written and passed 2014, 2015, that gutted accountability in municipal court. And we're paying for that at the top end of justice. That's why we have this creep now. Instead of us supervising domestics and probation and stuff like that, we are carjackers, alleged carjackers, armed robbers, murders, things like that. This is the type of people populating GPS. That never used to be that way. And it's that way because if you put every one of these people in jail, you've got no room for them. There's just no room. So you have to have some kind of middle ground. So thank you again.
Well, first of all, thank you. I want to thank ASAP. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Dennis, for representing, I think, an industry that's talking about how do we not only depopulate jail, but relieve the burden of costs from over-incarcerating people that don't necessarily have to be in jail. And do any of my colleagues have a comment? I see before we end this meeting. I know Councilmember King and I have been on these C words, cooperation and communication. And I think there needs to be more communication and cooperation, especially in the criminal justice system, if we're going to get a better product. And at some point, we're going to have to realize if we want to save money and make sure that we're monitoring the right people. What you talked about is that the burden now in your industry, we're going to have to deal with that. But also, secondly, if you've noticed anything, this council is a lot more thorough, a lot more thoughtful, diverse in our talent and our resume, and we read. We read the stuff that you send us. So often, Councilmember Harris, we've heard from so many presenters and people in the system who have talked about if the previous council would have done this, or if the previous council would have done that, or if they would have looked at this, or if they would have read the budget or done that. We're not going to be perfect, but what we're going to do is our jobs. And well, we've read the charter and we understand what our jobs are with the job description. We have a strong mayor, strong council form of government. We're going to be thoughtful to companies like you guys. And we're going to need you all, absolutely, really, to be at your best to make sure what I think we have is a criminal justice system that works, that doesn't spend money unnecessarily, and doesn't overburden the public unnecessarily. Councilmember Harris, before we end this, is there any comment that you want to make?
No, I just appreciate the thoroughness of all the presentations today. I'm sure that we will have follow-up questions. And so if we do, I know you'll be as responsive as you have been in your presentations. Thank you.
And before we end this, Paul, before we shut it off, on behalf of my colleagues and this committee and this meeting, thank you guys for all of your questions. I don't think any were unanswered, and if there were, we expect questions and solutions to come back at some point. But for those families out there who've been victims, the last couple of days have been ridiculous. 100 rounds on Elysian Fields, you know,
Yeah.
40 rounds on Chef, 30 rounds on Broad, 20 rounds of ammunition. And it used to be, you could predict, Councilmember Harris and Genesis, what time crime would happen. I remember we had midnight basketball and late night programs because you could say, you know what, we could relieve and alleviate some of that activity at this time. But 3 o'clock in the day, 2:30,
That's right.
1 p.m., 3 o'clock in the middle of the day. And Mayor Adams said that it was the citizens, the law-abiding citizens of New York versus the killers. Well, I think before we close out, we can say.
Council member, just to let you know, I don't know if you saw the message, but there's actually a SWAT role in Little Woods right now with an active shooter while we're in the meeting. And that's your district, council member.
Yeah, well, and I think that just shows what we're dealing with right now. So we're committed to that. It's law-abiding citizens here in New Orleans versus the killers, the robbers, the rapists, the carjackers, and it's not their town.
That's right.
That's right.
It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us.
One NOPD officer said it best. We have a great city with great people, but we have a small number of people in our city that is really affecting the way the rest of us live.
Well, like I
And-
tell teachers when I speak at schools, they shouldn't let one kid disrupt the whole class and a whole school if that kid doesn't want to learn or doesn't want to be productive in the class. We shouldn't let a small group of people, no matter what their age, disrupt our way of life and threaten us in terms of our ability to live. So thank you guys very much. I want to thank all of my colleagues, been productive, but we also look forward to continuing to work with you guys.
Yes.
I'd like to invite any of you to come to our office and break us. Come in, be as tough as you can be, bring the hardest questions you have and come ready. Look
Well,
at anything you want, whatever you want. Bring a tech rep, whatever you want to do. We would invite you to come and look
You
at it.
can
We will
coordinate
believe in what we do.
You can coordinate with my staff, my chief of staff, Deidre. I'll be glad to come out at some point, and I'm sure my colleagues will. Thank you guys very much, man. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful, I know Councilmember Morrell, you still have your governmental affairs meeting, or did you have that already?
Nope, it's on adjournment of this meeting. So if you're on governmental affairs, go click your next link.
Appreciate you guys, man. Y'all
All
have
right.
a good.
Thank you.